Elden Ring. Fucking hiccups. Elden Ring versus Twitter?
Ah, yes. Yes, the fingers foretold of this prophecy. You must be here to hear of the ruinous tale between the Elden Ring and the crazed denizens of the land betwixt, also known as Twitter. So sit down, grab a beverage. For me, my favorite drink is battery acid. Ha ha. Bottoms up, lads.
Elden Ring. It's this niche kind of underground game. Probably haven't heard of it. Elden Ring is probably one of the closest things I've ever had to a perfect gaming experience. You know you have a masterpiece on your hands when gaming journalists can put aside all of their differences and make this photo like a reality. This is a real thing. It is easily a 10 out of 10 masterpiece in my book, and it's probably one of the best games I've ever played in my life.
True.
But you sure wouldn't know that by looking at Twitter. Let's see what some people have to say about the game.
My biggest problem is the lack of story and context.
Elden Ring is an extremely overhyped asset flip.
It's supposed to be this massive open world, but there are no markers, quest logs, or journals. How do you know where to go? I'm Blind Beard the Pirate. Oops.
Elden Ring is the worst Dark Souls Bloodborne game FromSoft has ever put out. There is nothing to do. Literally copy-pasted from Dark Souls 2 to Elden Ring. The font.
I didn't realize that Elden Ring community had so many misogynists.
Hot take, Elden Ring isn't industry-changing or anything new. It's just the oasis in the desert that is the release of quality AAA game titles right now. 60 hours later, EldenRing's unhelpful messages are exhausting and disruptive.
The game journalists won.
Dude, if you don't get enjoyment every single time you see a doorway and you see a message that just says the phrase, you don't have the right, you don't have the right, repeated 3 times, then you are simply a fucking square.
Elden Ring is not a casual game. Yeah, that's fair. Dear Elden Ring, hitting the map button with the map open should close the map, not bring up a different menu.
Or perhaps you can use the cancel button like in any menu of the game. Is that so difficult? I don't understand why it would be so much better to use the same command. Your video game reporter complaining you can't remember a button to close a map. I don't understand why they should change their game instead of you learning how to play it.
What the fuck? Only bad thing about
Man, what a fucking shit show. I never even realized there was this many, fucking terrible opinions. Oh wait, it's Twitter. What the fuck am I talking about?
Elden Ring is the racist fans. What racist fan? Oh. Why I hate Elden Ring after playing for 200 hours? Wait a minute, hold up. I think I've seen this channel before.
My love dog gave me a urinary tract infection. What?
See, thanks to Elden Ring's newfound popularity, it has inspired just the dumbest hot takes at a volume I have never seen before in a game release. You got people saying the game is unplayable, you've got people saying the game is too playable. I will gladly suck off the Souls franchise for the rest of time, but getting into these games as a new player is an arduous fucking task. As someone new to the Souls games, just picking your player to start with is a befuddling task at best.
Shut up, clock in, and load up.
So what's gonna happen?
I mean, yeah, it's not like... The game is intimidating. It's definitely intimidating. Like, when you first start, it's fucking like, damn, there's a lot of shit to do. I don't know what class to pick, and then it drops you off. Or like when we opened up the door in Limgrave, I was like, to take the first step, I was like, holy shit, this is gigantic. Like, where do I even go from here? And there's one of 2 reactions that a person's gonna have. They're either gonna be extremely fucking excited and just go crazy and run around, or they're gonna be like panicky, like, oh no, like, damn, I don't know where to go. I don't want to do something wrong. I feel like you're just supposed to just dive in and just figure shit out as you go, you know?
You're gonna get a ton of new players to Elden Ring. They're gonna start it up, play it like Metal Gear Rising, and get their shit rocked because they don't know how to properly interact with the Souls games. So they're either gonna go online and complain about the game being difficult for the sake of being difficult and put it down forever, or they're gonna go online and see a bunch of other people complaining that it's too difficult and have their whole experience of the game tainted when they try it out for the first time. So to clear up any confusion out there, I have read over 1,000 tweets and a bunch of Reddit posts to kind of distill what are the main arguments being lodged against Elden Ring and kind of separate the shits from the farts here. And we're gonna go through them all to see what is actually valid criticism here and what is just mad 'cause bad ramblings.
Mad 'cause bad. Reuse of
One of
Dark
the
Souls
most
3
popular
assets.
criticisms I saw for Elden Ring was the reuse of Dark Souls 3 animations, movesets, and even some enemy types. And their argument usually boils down to Elden Ring feels more like Dark Souls 3.5 open world. And to their credit, out of all the official Souls-like offshoots like Bloodborne and Sekiro, Elden Ring does play closest to its Dark Souls counterparts.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of what everyone fucking wanted. I don't think anybody wanted Elden Ring to feel like this completely different game. It's a FromSoft game. You want it to feel like the games that you've already gotten used to. Hey, I understand these mechanics, and there's rolling, and there's doing this, and there's doing that. Like, that, you want it a certain way. It's kind of like if, like, The Last of Us 2 came out, and it played entirely different. It was like a first-person shooter. People were like, what is this shit? There's a reason why I bought it. Just because it has a different title, it's not Dark Souls, doesn't mean it's really going to be that different, you know?
And I think there's only one proper response to this criticism.
Who fucking gives a shit?
Well, what type of complaint is that? What on...
Yeah, and that's... Yeah, like, who actually gives a fuck if they reuse the assets? I don't know if people know this, but people would have gone fucking insane if they knew that, like, the old Source Engine games reused the shitload of their assets. So, like, Half-Life 1 and Half-Life 2 and Counter-Strike Source and CS, what is it, CS 1.6? Like, a lot of them used the exact same assets because it was all Source. And, like, Portal had assets from that engine. Like, Black Mesa, the fucking remake of the games, using that shit too. Like, all the assets were exactly the same. Now, that one might be for nostalgia's sake, but, like, who cares? Is that really an argument?
What on earth did you expect this game to be? This is like complaining that Diet Coke tastes too much like Coke. Like, that is why we are here. Saying that Elden Ring plays too much like Dark Souls 3 is a weird way of saying thank you. You should be stoked. And I totally understand that this is coming from the perspective of someone that's like, hey, I don't really like Dark Souls. I gave Elden Ring a shot. It played too much like Dark Souls. I didn't enjoy it. Okay, fair.
Like, you can flat out subjectively say, I just didn't enjoy the game that much. Okay, fine. Hey, wasn't your cup of tea. But, like, going out of your way to fucking shit on it for reusing assets is such a stupid fucking argument. It's not even a fucking argument.
But this is the maddening part, right? This is coming from tons of people who have hundreds of hours in Dark Souls 3. People who love Dark Souls 3 are complaining that they are having more of it. Like, what do you want? Be fucking happy. And so what if it reuses a bunch of animations? It also has a bunch of brand new shit. Here's the thing. You have reasonable things to criticize this game about, and you pick this? What? Now, to play Redditor's advocate here, yes, Elden Ring does reuse a good amount of animations and some gameplay mechanics from Dark Souls 3. That is because this is a Dark Souls game. Let's go into problem number...
I mean, yeah.
One of the biggest complaints around Elden Ring was the contention around its UX. I have no idea what that means. I looked it up and it's basically shorthand for the overall user experience.
Isn't that the whole game?
That has to be the most encompassing term. I think what they mean to say though is they're talking about the menus or the controls, the interaction with the player and the game as opposed to just playing, I don't know. So let's get the whole controls thing out of the way. Let's consider my bias here. I've been playing the Dark Souls games for years and years and years. I'm very used to the controls. It doesn't feel that foreign to me. That said, I should never have to throw up gang signs anytime I want to sprint and look around at the same time. If that's the start of your controller setup, probably not the best. Now, some people might come back to me and say, hey, the controls are a bit cramped here because they're adding new functionality, for example, the jump button. But mind you, Dark Souls has always had a jump button. And to jump, all you have to be doing is get into your claw grip position, sprint, and then click one of the sticks here to jump, which was arguably the most frustrating part of platforming Souls. Now, in Elden Ring, one of the biggest things here is that you have the Y or triangle modifier here, where you have to hold this button down, not a long amount of time, but it's certainly not quick. In a game where every single frame matters to your survival, having something where you have to kind of stop what you're doing, wait for something to engage in a menu is clunky. It's clunky. Here's the one frustration that I could not agree more with.
I have no fucking argument. I have no fucking argument in this, or no dog in this fight, just because, like, I've been playing it with mouse and keyboard, and it's been kind of perfectly fine. Other than what I feel like is some fucking rolls that don't come out sometimes, and that might just be my keyboard because I might have just abused it too much. But like, I never had so many missed rolls and shit in Dark Souls 3 that I feel like I've missed a lot in Elden Ring. But I've also never played this shit without it being up with the controller. This is the first time.
Call your horse, you have to use a special in-game item as opposed to just hitting a button and having it auto-trigger. But here's the crazy part. To hit the D-pad, you have to take your thumb off of the left thumbstick, which is arguably one of the most important inputs in the game. This is your movement. You are constantly positioning your movement. You are rarely ever standing still in Dark Souls.
Yeah, and the problem is, I mean, it's pretty much like that with PC too. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but like when I've been playing and my hand's right here and my mouse is right here, when I need to use my Estus to change, I fucking immediately move my entire hand over to the arrow keys, because the arrow keys is how you swap up, left, bottom, right. So it's rough, but I got used to it. That's why it's not that big of a deal.
Souls. So the thought of being in the middle of a battle, trying to call your horse to either engage an enemy or run the fuck away from it, you now have to stand there. You have to pray to God that it actually summons the horse instead of it just canceling out while the whistle blows. Because sometimes it just straight up won't work. But the weirder thing is, to dismount your horse, all you gotta do is click the stick. Nice job, nice job. Why couldn't you fucking call the horse with the stick? Really? The call the horse feature, which I have used infinitely more times than the crouch button, is mapped to like this arbitrary modifier. What? Most of the controller issues here stem from the attack inputs living on the triggers, which is an input that can be executed regardless of where the fingers are on the controller. You can have a trigger modify a button like a shift key with basically no trade-off, but having a button modify anything else on the controller requires the thumb to abandon all the other inputs while it's being held down, especially if it's modifying other f***ing buttons. If most of the attacks here were mapped to these buttons, it would allow the triggers to be used way more efficiently with basically zero trade-off. But forget all that. If you're just trying to call the horse more easily, all you would have to do is map both stick clicks to be pressed simultaneously to call the whistle. I don't know why on earth they didn't opt for this. I don't fault anyone, especially new players, for feeling a little bit steamed up over the control scheme. So that covers the controller side of things. But as far as the user experience goes, the game's fantastic. The game's really fun. So user experience still good. But oddly enough, the second part of this UX debate does lead us into the third.
Dude.
There seem to be a lot of people confused on how to progress in the main story of the game, despite the giant-ass yellow arrows pointing you exactly where to go, in-game and in the menu.
Where am I?
If you're stuck in the main quest progression of this game, I don't know, you gotta go play some penguin math games, or you gotta level up that noggin. That said, however, before you crawl up my asshole, I do think the side quests could benefit from a quest journal. I know, shocker. The Ubisoft devs were trying to nitpick the game and saying that there's no real good way to track your side quest progression. It is all very vague. I think it's a little strange that Ubisoft, of all people, is trying to take shots at this aspect of the game, despite them forcing mandatory trailing missions. But to be fair, I think the game would benefit from having some form of quest log. First of all, I can't even remember half these people's names. I have played this game easily 100 hours and I've done a bunch of the side quests. I still can't tell you half these dudes' names.
I can, especially fucking Jarbin? Jarbin? The little jar? Not, well, I know Alexander. Jarbairn, there you go, I said Jarbane. Jarbairn was fucking awesome. Alexander, Rani, Selvisk, he's a fucking dickhead. Something with a V, the fucking bloody guy.
Can you remember who this is?
Yes, I can. That's fucking Dioro. Yes, it's one of those. I know because he's the hero of the Jar Village.
What's their name?
Fia.
What's their name?
Fia, that other girl I don't know.
What's his name?
Tomato.
Yeah, okay, didn't think so. The way the side quests work in Elden Ring is that you just communicate with the NPCs. They give you a bunch of dialogue.
That guy's name is D. I know because D's nuts.
And that's supposed to give you clues as to where you'll find them next. And that would totally work if they didn't speak in fucking Shakespearean wingdings half the time.
Real hound of the Golden Order, thou art yet to become me.
What the fuck is this
Thou
bitch
art
saying?
yet to become
Just
a
smile and nod and it'll get you laid. Yeah, I'll just slip something in her Estes.
So inevitably, I'm just gonna have to
Jesus.
go online to look it all up. Even the side quests in Dark Souls were cryptic metaphor on how to continue those, and add in the open world to Elden Ring, and it's just, it could use the quest journal. But the wild thing is, Elden Ring actually released a patch that just showed you where the NPCs are
Yeah,
in the game.
it
which
got
is
even better.
Thank you. You didn't need to do that, but you did. So I give Twitter a half point for suggesting that the side quests could use a quest log, but the main quests, I don't know.
Why the fuck did he yeet the merchant?
Like, that's a stretch.
The bosses. Oh, wait, this might be spoilery.
Now, one of the biggest complaints I've seen people lodge against Elden Ring is the quality of the bosses and reuse of them in the later section of the endgame. But I don't get this. All of these complaints do feel so whacked when you put it in perspective of Elden Ring versus all the other Dark Souls games. So let's piece this whole thing together here. Dark Souls 3, a fantastic game that you can put hundreds of hours into, had 25 bosses total, including the DLC. However, Elden Ring has at least 150 bosses, and I'm sure we'll find way more in a couple months. That means that Elden Ring has 6 times the amount of bosses than Dark Souls 3 has. So if only 17% of these Elden Ring bosses are as good as the Dark Souls 3 ones,
that's still a
we're
fuck
already
ton.
in a surplus. There are at least 70 original bosses in this game that are pure cinema bosses.
You just said you weren't gonna show them all.
Holy fuck.
Well, I didn't really see what the fuck
So
that
the
was.
whole
but-
argument saying that the bosses aren't as good, blow that out your ass. A lot of these bosses are fantastic. Some of the best in the series, in my opinion. You just can't take that away from this game. And to be fair, yes, there is some reskinning that happens later in the game. The biggest offender here, and this isn't a spoiler because everyone's heard of it, is the Godskin boss. It wasn't fun, I'll give it that. I'd rather have it not be a boss fight there, but it wasn't like that bad. Elden Ring has given you so many ways to defeat hard bosses in this game, whereas prior games, other Dark Souls games, if you're up against a hard boss, you're fucked. You have to get better at the game, even if you're using online summons. I think most people's issues with the bosses lie within the
still don't
5th
know what that
most
is.
popular complaint against Elden Ring, which addresses the game. When you get towards the end of the game, things ramp up in difficulty quite a bit. Enemies have huge health bars, and they start outputting just crazy damage, where you can get 2 hit by just about anything at the end
Yeah,
of the
no
game.
fucking shit.
I don't want to talk about it.
Normally, I'm not too bothered with this, because this is the game saying, like, hey, go do other stuff in the game so you get more powerful, and then do the end game stuff. However, at this point, you probably already have a maxed out weapon, and your stats are high enough that allocating more points into these,
Fucking level 171? Oh my god.
it's a pretty diminishing returns. So it feels like you're getting into an area that's very hard, and you don't have much of a means
Detroit? What the
of getting
fuck?
stronger, which is 60% of the fun of these games, is just getting stronger. Dark Souls is one of the few games that gets me excited about rock collecting.
I'll take that.
It wasn't that the game got that much harder, but the punishments got more severe, so
my
I had
God, the
much less
damage.
margin for error, and if I had that error, I didn't have a second chance to learn what I did wrong and fix that mistake. I'm just dead. Now, to alleviate this issue, a lot of people are suggesting you put a bunch of points into your
My dick gets bigger because I'm a crazy...
health, and not that word, but just putting your points in health not only feels like a bitch move, but just isn't really a fun way to play the game, as opposed to
What? Not putting points into health is it's a bitch move? Yo, fellas, is it a bitch move to die? To fucking live longer than 1 hit?
just putting your points into strength or something else. But you've already put 100 hours into the game. You've probably enjoyed it by now, otherwise you wouldn't be playing it, so.
Right.
I don't know, can you really complain at this point? Yes, and that's what I'm doing. I hope maybe they kind of rebalance this a little bit, just because it would make the game, I think, just purely more fun. I don't think there's really a trade-off here, and there will be a bunch of people who disagree with me on that. I think that's fair. I don't fault anyone for that. But it doesn't matter if any of this criticism is valid or invalid. Elden Ring is still easily a 10 out of 10 game, so just go enjoy it.
Can't argue that. That was a good video. That was funny too.